Mark Kelly didn't see this coming.
The tendency to repeat Russian and Syrian, and even in some cases, I think we'll get into in the closed session, Iranian information.
Senator, every American deserves to know that people in our own government were providing support to our sworn enemy, al-Qaeda.
During a Senate hearing, Kelly tried to frame Tulsi as a foreign agent, but she pushed back by exposing Obama-era programs that fueled instability in the Middle East, leaving him with no real response but to agree, proving she was right all along. And today, we're covering it all. So if you enjoy content that cuts through the noise, hit that subscribe button and let's jump right into it.
Senator Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colonel Gabbard, when Russia was denying Assad's use of chemical weapons, they accused the U.S. of supporting terrorists. This is a line that Putin used frequently during the Syrian civil war as he supported Assad. Syrian officials made similar comments. They did it repeatedly. They did it in public. They did it at the United Nations. In 2016, you gave an interview in which you said, and this is a quote, "The U.S. is providing direct and indirect support to terrorist groups in order to overthrow the Syrian government." And in 2019, on the Democratic presidential debate stage, you said of President Trump, this is a quote, "This current president is continuing to betray us. We were supposed to be going after al-Qaeda, but over years now, not only have we not gone after al-Qaeda, our president is supporting al-Qaeda." So I'm interested to hear, what was your goal in saying these things?
It's kind of absurd how whenever Democrats run out of arguments on Tulsi, they fall back on trying to label her as some kind of foreign agent. Mind you, that whole narrative started after Hillary Clinton said that the Russians were grooming her back in 2019 just to take her out of the Democratic primaries. Since then, it's become the go-to line anytime her name comes up. But there's another layer to it. This is the same Mark Kelly who has portrayed himself as a target after being investigated over the illegal orders video. So there seems to be some kind of weird pattern with him. But setting that aside, Tulsi didn't hold back her response, and she dropped some major truth bombs. Take a look.
Senator, as someone who enlisted in the military specifically because of al-Qaeda's terrorist attack on 9/11 and committing myself and my life to doing what I could to defeat these terrorists, it was shocking and a betrayal to me and every person who was killed on 9/11, their families and my brothers and sisters in uniform. When, as a member of Congress, I learned about President Obama's dual programs that he had begun really to overthrow the regime of Syria, and being willing to, through the CIA's Sycamore program that has now been made public, of working with and arming and equipping al-Qaeda in an effort to overthrow that regime, starting yet another regime change war in the Middle East.
That's the first program Tulsi mentioned. Even the New York Times did a lengthy piece on it back in 2017, describing it as one of the most expensive efforts to arm and train rebels since the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. Now, there were multiple ways extremist groups ended up with U.S.-supplied weapons. One example was mentioned in the same article, where Jordanian intelligence officers stole stockpiles the CIA had shipped into the country for the Syrian rebels, selling them on the black market. This wasn't a small operation either. It reportedly cost over $1 billion. And in the end, it was Trump who shut it down during his first term, aiming to stop taxpayer money from being used without clear results. On that note, did you know that OpenAI has the former NSA director sitting on its board? Edward Snowden called this a willful, calculated betrayal of the rights of every person on Earth. So how comfortable are you knowing that your AI conversations can be tied back to you? That's exactly where today's sponsor, Venice AI, changes the game. It's a tool that lets you interact with leading AI models anonymously. Their method is simple. Every prompt you enter gets encrypted and stored only on your device, ensuring no company can monetize or access your data. I've been using it for research on our videos, and the difference is clear. You get direct answers without filters, without that AI bias, without someone shaping the narrative behind the scenes. On top of that, no one has the ability to scan my conversations. So, if you want to use AI without handing your most personal information to corporations or the government, check out venice.ai/Dias and use code THEDIAS to get 20% off their Pro plan. It's a solid tool that puts you back in control, so make sure to check them out by clicking the link in the description. Now back to the video.
DoD Train and Equip program, again, begun under President Obama, is widely been known, looked at, and studied, that ultimately resulted in over $500 million being used to train who they called moderate rebels, but were actually fighters working with and aligned with al-Qaeda's affiliate on the ground in Syria, all to move forward with their regime change and not acknowledging what was obvious at the time and what has unfortunately borne true, which was that a regime change war in Syria, much like the regime change wars in Iraq, the toppling of Gaddafi and Mubarak, while these are all dictators, would likely result in the rise of Islamist extremists like al-Qaeda taking power. I shed no tears for the fall of the Assad regime, but today we have an Islamist extremist who is now in charge of Syria, as I said, who danced on the streets to celebrate the 9/11 attack, who ruled over Idlib with an Islamist extremist governance, and who has already begun to persecute and kill and arrest religious minorities like Christians in Syria.
Exactly. And here's what makes it even more absurd. In 2015, Vox admitted Obama's Syria policy was a mess. Yet a decade later, just because Tulsi is serving in the Trump administration, the Democrats try to frame her as a foreign agent for saying the same things. You can literally draw a line from the programs that started under Obama to the toppling of Assad and extremists taking over the government. Obviously, they wouldn't acknowledge it because it'd make an already questionable legacy look even worse. After Tulsi laid out the facts, instead of engaging with her points, Kelly kept repeating his initial talking points. But when she pushed back, he had to agree with her.
Why that should be acceptable to anyone is beyond me.
It shouldn't
is
be.
certainly
and
not
I understand,
in our
and
interest.
I appreciate your answer, and thank you. My concern has to do with the tendency to repeat Russian and Syrian, and even in some cases, I think we'll get into in the closed session, Iranian information, and to discount what comes from our intelligence community.
Senator, every American deserves to know that people in our own government were providing support to our sworn enemy, al-Qaeda. That should not be acceptable by anyone.
Thank you, Senator Kelly. Ms. Gabbard.
Here's something to think about. With everything we've learned about our intelligence agencies and how they operate, both at home and abroad, it's beyond me how their claims still get treated as gospel. And that's despite a long track record where those claims didn't hold up. Remember the 51 former officers who signed a letter saying the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation to influence the 2020 elections? How did that play out? So the bottom line becomes clear. When someone like Tulsi challenges the narrative pushed by the establishment, their response isn't to debate the facts. It's to launch a character assassination campaign, and that pattern keeps repeating every time someone exposes truths that they'd rather keep out of the spotlight.